Okay, I think we are ready and we can start. If while we are presenting, some of you have any question, you can use the chat. We will, after that, after the demos, we will check all the communication within the chat and also within the question and answer model. Okay, so tonight we will present you the latest features that we developed for BELLATRIX test framework. We will also see some extended existing features like the wall testing, and there is a lot to see. But before that, I would present the part of the team that will show the demos. I'm Martin Korev and I'm marketing lead. And together with Anton, my co-founder, and with Nikki, yes, Nikki is our principal developer in test that's joined the team before 1 month, and we're very happy with that. And yes, he's excited to present what he did for 1 month. Okay, so we can move on with the agenda.
Yeah, sure.
And Anton maybe will explain better about.
Yeah, before the agenda, we want to say a few words about BELLATRIX, and maybe some of you who already used our solution know these various points that are, making our solution different than the competitors. Just a few words. Like the first thing is this universal testing solution, meaning that with a single framework you can automate web, iOS, Android, desktop, and API. We strive to make the API similar for all these platforms, meaning that if you learn how to write web tests, it will be easier to switch to write desktop tests. Then our tool is cross-platform, meaning that you can use the framework to write tests on Mac, Linux, and Windows, and also you can execute these tests across these 3 platforms. Also, we strive always, as with this release, as you will see, to keep up to date to all the third-party libraries, browsers, mobile devices, etc., and to keep the framework alive and everything to run smoothly. And if you have already tried the product, you used our Getting Started guide, which is like a solution to self-train and self-learn how to use the framework. And as you probably, if you have run through the site, you checked our release documentation. Before each release, we strive to document and explain everything into these starter kits and into the documentation. And the difference between a library and a framework is that maybe this is the coolest feature of all of them, is that the framework is written in a way that you can modify it and extend it, write plugins to it. If something is not working for you out of the box, you can customize it, or you can write a plugin on top of the existing features. And also we strive to help our users through the forums, or for example, if you are an enterprise client, we try to we have a ticketing system, and we try to be really helpful through through this extended support. And also for some clients, we do like extra feature development and customizations if they don't have the power to do them themselves. So let's move to the agenda. And actually with this presentation, our goal is to present to you, you'll be the first who will see all of these features before they are live. And I hope that the demo gods will be with us and we don't fail while we are presenting. But first, Nikki will show you the nucleus features about automating complex HTML tables and grids. Then we will show you how you can automate hard to otherwise verify functionalities such as PDFs, charts, and similar. Then I will show you a really cool feature that you can run your BELLATRIX tests inside of Docker containers using Selenium in the cloud or on your local machine. Then, as you know, in our past releases, we introduced support to reusing your web tests for wall testing, and a second way how you can use BELLATRIX through BDD, like in a SpecFlow manner. And lastly, between the two releases, we introduced an Angular support for Angular apps. And last but not least, there are two other important things about this release. The first is that I will show you, even in a short demo, how you can, within the code, you can install and upgrade particular required software such as browsers. And another thing is that maybe, as you know, all of our libraries are based on .NET Core. And .NET Core 2.0 will be out of support to the end of this year. So for this particular release, we will support the latest .NET Core 3.1, which was released a few days ago. Yeah. So I'm giving the word to Nikki, who will show you the table and grid feature.
All right. Thanks for joining us again today. Let's start with our feature about tables and grid support. Let's start with a little theory, what we understand when we say a table. As you probably know, the table is an HTML element that contains a header, body, and footer in its usual form. In the same time, tables can be really various, and even a basic table like this that has just a table tag and just table rows is also a valid expression of a table. And we're trying to support all of its configuration, even though people are really getting really creative with this and building websites all in tables. But as Anton said, the framework gives you the ability to extend it and modify its usage. So even if you have specific case in your tables on the website that you're testing, you can modify it and extend it to work in your scenario. Okay, but we mentioned tables and grids. What's the difference between a table and grid? The table is well documented and it has some specifics and specifications, but the grid is something that we often use, but is not, how to say...
the table is it contains usually static data, displaying the data. Maybe you can show directly the demo webpage.
Yeah, what I mean is that the table, the grid is basically a table wrapped in another div or another HTML element that tells the framework pretty much generate a table in my container. And the whole thing is pretty much the same. It works like a table.
Yeah, it's a table, but usually, as you will see in the example, these kind of tables, they are much more complex. They can have filters, paging, they can have inside the cells complex HTML controls such as text fields, buttons, selects. They can be wrapped in the cell. You can have multiple different spans, and we strived to create a complex control that can help you to automate all of these different scenarios. And moreover, the difference between the table and the grid is that, as I mentioned, usually in the table you have this static data, but usually in the grid you have this dynamic data that is always different. And usually, sometimes it's easier to locate the different rows because sometimes you have these unique identifiers, but in some grids you don't have unique thing that you can select the row, and this is where our solution can help.
Yeah, yes, maybe we can proceed with the demos. They are explaining this in a visual way.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Okay, so I'll just really quickly go through a sample table that has just some headers, some rows with data, with it can be different kind, like numbers, emails, websites, whatever. While in the grid example, we have more functionality. The user is expected to interact with the grid and enter a few of some of the fields, click the buttons, maybe filter a column, stuff like that. What the framework gives you here is it gives you an easy way to find any element in the table and also interact with it.
Yeah, without writing custom locators. Like you just find the table and then the framework is doing its magic. You don't need to like you can always like write a custom locator for the middle text field, but you need to if you need to interact with a different elements, you need to write a different locators, and we make this much more easier.
Yeah, much easier to use and much more maintainable. Let's take a quick look at our grid. It's really basic, but what we have here is a few headers and columns that use row span. Also, one of the headers here uses co-span, and it displays email, both personal and business, to our employees here. The other specific thing here is that this column order has input that can be typed in. Some of the columns are just text columns, and then we have action buttons in this last column. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the demos that we have for the grid, and you can easily use the same methods and the same functionalities in any table. But since we're limited in time, we only have time to show you one of them.
Yeah, actually, as Nikki said, the table and the grid control, they're similar. However, the grid extends the table. But if you started to use, for example, the table, we strived as any feature in BELLATRIX to make the API and the method similar. And this means that the usage will be like almost identical, but the grid has more functionality.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump to the Visual Studio. What we have here is a simple test class that has one page. Using the page object pattern, we have also created a property that returns our grid control. What is specific here is how you initialize and how do you define your grid. This kind of definition here will help you when you're writing your tests, and will save you a few lines of code by configuring it properly. So what we have here, first thing is to create an element by ID. This is the unique identifier of the grid, of type grid, of course. And then we're using this setColumn method. It has a few overloads. The basic usage is just to specify first name. What that says is that you have a column that has a header with inner text first name. The other way to use it is to specify the column by its header name, but also say that you have in this column you have a control of type text field.
And how you find it? This is because, as mentioned, usually in grid controls, some of the particular cells, for example, where the text field is, it can be wrapped in multiple diffs or spans. And if you don't mention this, you won't be able to, use the functionality of casting to text field.
Yep. And as you can see, we are supporting all kinds of locators here. As in the actions column, we have this type of button, and where you can find it by XPath using this expression. This definition of the grid gives you an object that you can use in your test. Okay, so what we have here is just a list of employees which represent our object or one row of the grid. This is our expected data.
Yeah.
Let's just collapse it. And let's take a look at a few of the options that we have, that the framework is giving you to access any cell of the grid. For example, you can get a cell by using test grid property, get cell method, and specify what's the header name or the column that you need to take and which row you need. This will return you the cell where you can get its inner text and assert its contents. This is the basic usage.
Yeah, the basic usage. And instead of using assert or equal, all of these like methods, etc., they support the ensure BELLATRIX methods where
the syntax is really much more simple than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other cool thing is that you can for each all the cells, and by using a function, you can do assertion or some other kind of action. This gives you really quick access to all the cells of the table. There are a few more ways to interact with the cells and get them. But let's take a look at one of the more interesting things. This is the casting of a cell as an object. What it does is you can get a cell by some expression, but you're specifying that this is a property of an object. So you're saying get cell of employee, where the cell personal email is some value.
Yeah, it's actually allowing you to dynamically filter by the different types. And actually you can do, you have the same syntax for, getting a cell by using directly, I don't know where this example is, but like interacting with the direct properties of, for example, the text field. For example, iterating through all of the controls inside the table and say, if this is a text field, please check whether the inner text is equal to a particular value. And then the getCell method will return this exact cell where this particular text field is.
Yep.
Maybe you can show the way how you can cast a cell to a particular element, yeah, like here.
Yeah, like the button. Yeah, this is the other option you have. Once you have the actions header, the action column, you can cast it to a button and then use the methods that you usually have for a button. In this case, a click. Or in the case of input, you can type text or whatever you need to do, which is really convenient and saves you a few mappings and other properties.
Where is the assert table example? Maybe you can show one of the most powerful features is how you can get all of the items, through the getItems method, where instead of writing expressions for each particular cell, the getItems method converts all of the cells to a list of C# objects. In this case, employees. Then you can work as a normal C# list, and then
yeah, and then you can easily compare them to your expected data and assert all of its properties. In this example, we're getting one of the first employee as expected data, and we're comparing it to the first row. You don't need to look in the row and in the HTML. You have the object as output, and you can compare them right away.
Yeah, or you can assert the whole table.
Or yeah, you can give it the whole collection of your expected data, and then assert the whole table. This will go through all the rows and verify all the entries in there.
Yes, I think now, of course, Anton mentioned that the release will be the next week.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you will be
Friday.
able to, yes, so all of you will be able to try the getting started and the documentation, and you will see all the whole feature, because now we should continue with the agenda.
That will be well documented, that you can see like all the cases and all the usages that you can do with it as usual.
Yeah, we can proceed to visual testing verification.
Okay. Okay, we didn't give much time to this feature, but it's really powerful and it's really useful in many cases. Like in this case, we have created a test that is using the interaction servers to bring out the print screen of this grid. I'll just simulate it really quick. Control plus P. Then you have this screen and you want to verify that the PDF that's generated is correct and the grid stays intact. How do you verify it if you don't have this feature? Simply, it's really hard. But what we have as a new feature is that screening class, which can be used with an ensure is visible method. What it does is it has an image that contains the expected data, the expected image that you need to verify, and it's looking for it on your screen.
Yeah, basically you just, this particular image, we created the screenshot ourselves, like only on this part of the PDF that you want to verify. You just add it to the project and embed it to the project. And then when you use this ensure is visible assertion, it will, check with some kind of a similarity in machine learning whether this particular image is equal to the actual screen. And it is much more than that, actually. We're just showing this particular usage,
Yeah.
but actually you can use it to, for example, click on the Visual Studio stuff or the Windows button or any kind of visual thing on the screen.
Any visual interactions.
And yeah, you can drag and drop, you can enter a text into the text field, etc. As said, as mentioned by Martin, you will see all of these examples in our documentation and GitHub starter guide.
Yep.
And maybe I can show the other features.
Yeah. If you guys have questions on the grids and tables or your specific usage, you can share it with us using the chat or questions, and we'll try to answer them.
Yeah.
Right now we will switch.
Okay, right now I will show you our Selenium support. What is Selenium? If you don't know, it's like a Selenium grid, rewritten Selenium grid for specifically running your tests in Docker containers. You can, you can do it locally, or you can upload all of these containers in Azure or in Amazon Cloud, in Kubernetes. And so, how you can do that? I have a local setup of Selenium running here on my machine. As you can see, here is my Docker. You can check the status of Selenium here through navigating to this particular URL. And as you can see, I have a few Docker images for Chrome, Firefox, and Opera. And how we use it. First, let's see how we start a BELLATRIX web test the regular way. You usually use this browser attribute, mentioning the browser and the browser behavior, whether you want to reuse the browser, restart it every time, or restart it on the file. And for the Selenoid, what you do? Let me open the demos. Here is my Selenoid demo. We use, as any of our cloud provider stuff, we use particular attribute. As you know, we have support for cloud providers such as SourceLabs, BrowserStack, and all others. Usually, you have this particular attribute on top. We have this Selenoid, we use this Selenoid attribute on top of the class, where we mention the browser, the version, again, the behavior, and Selenoid support this cool feature of recording what is happening inside the container. So let's run these demos. It's like a basic web test walking through our demo shopping cart. Let me start the tests. As you can see, I already run them before, but since it's live webinar, we need to have demos. So let's execute them. The project is building. We are waiting a bit.
Then I will show you, since you cannot visualize what is happening inside the containers. Actually, that's not true. They have this cool another Docker image where they have this Go website interface where you can see live what is happening inside of your containers, but I don't have it right now. But this is a separate feature of, yeah.
But we will still see the
Yeah,
saved ones.
yeah, we'll see, we'll see. So the tests are running in a minute. We're waiting and waiting. Yeah, they started. So if we navigate again to the this status and refresh a bit, it should start in a second. What happened here? The Dale goats failed. Anyway, if you navigate later on when the tests are executed, I don't know why I failed. But when the tests pass and you navigate to this video URL, you can watch what happened inside the container. Like I mentioned, this is happening inside the container in the background, which is really cool. And they support all the different browsers. Like this happened like 2 minutes ago. I don't know what happened. Anyway.
Yeah, and you can see the whole process and the whole execution of your test.
Yeah.
If something happened in the middle or some exception was thrown, you can easily see it. And
yeah. So right now, let's proceed with the wall testing. I'll show you how you can, reuse your web test for wall testing. I have created another example here. As you know, there is a configuration first. There are two configurations. One of them is here in our settings file. Here you have this wall testing settings section. And then in the test initialize, you need to use wall testing plugin. And then two more things. You need to mention here that to use this particular BELLATRIX feature for capturing the HTTP traffic, and then mention this wall testing attribute on top of each particular web test. And the magic that is happening is that our plugin will record each of the requests and save it in this special format where you can see all the test executions. The cool thing about this is that each time you rerun the test, we will recapture the traffic and then reuse this particular file for the wall test. And this is not true for regular wall tests, how they work, because usually you record only once your scenario, and after that, if something has changed in the test, you need to re-record your wall test. But this is not happening here because of the way how we do it is that each time you rerun your test in continuous integration, mention that it's a wall test, we will record the traffic and then run the test based on this new recording.
in your tests, you'll stay up to date together with the functional tests.
Then we have a separate project for the wall test, as you can see here. And here in this wall test demo, what do you have? First, we need to derive from the wall test base class, and then you define your wall test here using our wall test engine and settings. And you have a couple of settings. First, you can change the wall test type, whether it's executed for a particular time, for example, 2 minutes, or a couple of times, for example, 100 times. Then you can change how you can mix the different scenarios, whether, for example, if you have 5 test cases, you can change whether they're equally distributed while executing, or you want to, for example, your login test to be executed like 3 times more than the other test cases. Then you mention how many processes you have. what else? Whether the recorded pulses will be executed or not. And then you can filter using regular expressions, exclude some particular requests. For example, maybe you don't want to wall test your analytics or Facebook integration. And then you mention here what are the use cases that you want to execute in the wall test. And last but not least, you need to mention the type of assertions that will be executed at the end of the wall test. For example, here we mentioned that we want to check the status of all web requests, whether it's successful or not. And maybe the coolest thing here is that if you use our BELLATRIX web ensure methods that actually, for example, check the inner text of particular element or not, our engine supports that out of the box, meaning that it will parse the HTML, it will find the element and check really the value or the inner text or whatever assertions you made, which is like totally not the case for all other wall testing engines. And in the end of the wall test, when you call the execute, we will save the report here. We won't have the time to wait for it, but I will show you a sample report. Here you can see the two test cases that I added, the average execution time. Then you have the max execution time, the min execution time. I changed a bit so that you can see some failures. Here you can see the details about them and what type of assertions failed. You have the paging. You can see all of the assertions that passed, and so on and so on. We have a detailed documentation about that.
Yeah, that's one of the extended features. It's live from 6 months, so I think now we can show the SpecFlow.
Yeah. Okay, the SpecFlow also was released a couple of months ago. I believe we added a few more things to it. What is the SpecFlow? Let me give you an example. Even if it's not my favorite thing in the world, it's like something that many of our users used and requested. This is why we added it. It's basically a BDD, behavior-driven development tool. And you can write your test using plain language, like English or other languages.
I just wanted to include that there is separate documentation for that.
Yeah. We have a separate documentation because it's like a totally different way how you can write BELLATRIX tests. And we basically, instead of, even before you could integrate BELLATRIX and SpecFlow yourself, but actually the thing that we added is that all of our plugins are available for SpecFlow as well. And we have this plugin architecture for it too. And as you can see here, one scenario is equal to one test, and the background is something that it's executed before the different scenarios. And here you have these predefined steps. Let me go a little bit back. For each, in order this to work, these sentences, you need to have these, steps. It's coded steps, where in this attribute, you need to map between the function, the method, C# method that is executed to the particular line of sentence. And you can write it yourself. As you can see here, I'm executing one of Angular tests here when I say an Angular test works. And you can write and call any particular BELLATRIX code. But on top of that, we added like a support for most of our core BELLATRIX services. For example, you can mention here that you want a Firefox browser to be reused, to take a screenshot for the failed test, or to record the video and then open the browser. And then you have all these methods that are part of the framework, like clicking the back button, navigating to particular URL, waiting for Ajax, handling cookies, etc., etc. All of this is here, and it's actually working for all the platforms, like for wall testing, for desktop, for Android, for iOS, for everything. It's already live,
You have like complete huge documentation about it. So if you want to use it,
It's mirrored.
it's mirrored, yeah, because it's completely different way and we didn't want to couple it. Yeah. So let's proceed, I think,
Yes,
with the Angular thing.
Yep, we can start with the Angular.
Yeah, in between the releases, since users wanted from us that it was critical for them to be able to automate Angular, let me show. If you don't know what Angular is, it's like a framework developed by Google, and it's like for single-page applications where, you know, when you load the application, it's asynchronous, meaning that different parts of the page will load
different time.
in different time. Also, here you can check the HTML source code, and you will see that you have these different attributes that are not part of the regular HTML. And also, if you call a regular WebDriver wait, or you know, even BELLATRIX before wait for Ajax or wait until ready, we won't wait for this Angular calls because it's completely different way how it's happening under the hood of the browser. So right now we have this built-in support for waiting for this Angular takes under the hood of BELLATRIX. You can turn it on here from the settings. You have this should wait for Angular under the hood, like again, like anything else. And then we added like specific locators for these Angular controls here for the attributes. Let me show you just in a second. Here in the Angular test, you have these new locators like finding by ng model, or finding by ng binding, or ng repeater, and so on and so on. And you can like again call wait for Angular here explicitly. Yeah, that's it. What was the next?
The last feature is the test automation.
Yeah, the test automation is like a use case where, you know, we have this new software automation service class. When you call install required software, it will magically install the latest version, for example, for all the browsers, install all the required extensions, or install just a specific version of the browser, because, you know, there is this drawback of WebDriver where, for example, if you have Chrome 78 but you use driver 77, it won't work.
Maybe we should start with the use case when we came to this.
Yeah, we came to this because, you know, for a client of ours, we want to enable developers to be able to run all of these tests on their machines. But it's hard to tell them, please install Chrome 77, or while we are, you know, supporting only 78, for example. And we want for them to be as easy as possible, like just one click while running the test. The framework is doing its magic to install all the required things. And this is even more powerful for the mobile stuff, because there we have additional, you know, software such as emulators, IPM servers, whatever. This will do this kind of magic. And how you use it, as mentioned, it's here in the test initialize. You call this particular line, and then you have this section in the config called machine automation setting, where when it's enabled here, you can specify the packages to be installed. Under the hood, we use this Windows package manager. They have this community-driven repository of these packages, for example, for the browsers, for the extensions, and everything else. You can actually not only install required software, but since it's using PowerShell, you can do all kinds of magics to, you know, configure the machine. But basically, these package names are from there. And if you need to, you know, as mentioned, install a particular version, you can mention like this. In this particular case, we will install Firefox 65 and install after that this particular Firefox extension to this particular version of the Firefox, which is really cool. Maybe we can.
Some of the tickets will not exist anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move back to the presentation. I think it's, we can move to the questions if you have any, and also we want to.
If not, I have some. Like I have regular meetings with clients, so I can
Yeah,
ask some.
yeah, we'll trigger like a short poll. You can answer a few questions. And yeah, you can ask any questions in the chat or in the question and answer section, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, the most common questions that I observe is that, for example, people are asking how we will build the next the roadmap for the
Next roadmap?
Yeah, and here I wanted to mention that we are trying to somehow articulate between real client expectations, like when as Anton mentioned, we create the Angular support for particular client, and we are trying to somehow articulate between real clients' needs and the vision of the guys that they are creating the tool. So that's the way how we are trying to adapt between the real need and our vision for the.
Yeah, and maybe another cool thing about this release is that we will, we haven't officially announced, but we have these cool new forums, and we are already started to answer users' questions there. And yeah, this is another place where you can reach us and tell us what you need.
Yes, and the next slide there is my email. So, or you can always use the contact form or the live chat that we have. I'm sure that there are a lot of more specific questions, and we can create a like personal demo and discuss what is the exact problem if it's more specific than.
Yeah, sure.
So, yep, if there is something, I will just ask again if you're able for just 1 minute to fill down the poll. And if you have some questions after the webinar, you can just use any channel from the last slide and we will.
Yeah, sure. Okay, and yes, the recording of this will be published live also.
Yes, we will upload that. You will be able to try this at the end of the next week, everything with the documentation. And for sure will work, will not be like one of the demo, but that's the real show. So
I don't think that this was a BELLATRIX fault, but anyway.
And maybe a few more words for to thank the whole team for this release that made it possible. They did a great job, and we can't wait to see what next will come up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being with us, and
thank you for joining.
Yeah, and we'll make from now on this like a regular thing, like with the webinars. Yeah.
There are a lot of topics that they are like you mentioned before, like use cases that we will also try to create
webinars for them. Yeah.
Yes, webinars.
Because I believe that for complex use cases such as how to handle grids or tables or whatever, we need to have particular topic that we can work on.
Yes, the other direction that we will for sure somehow cover will be like not that senior member that they're how to start.
Yeah, this will be, there will be, it's like in my personal roadmap to create like at least 2 articles to the end of the year. Like this is my, 2019 resolution. And it will be like to have a single article that it's BELLATRIX 101, where we explain from the beginning, from downloading to, writing complete full-fledged test, how to do it. Then we will record a video of it. And then there will be the same thing, because many people ask me how they can, integrate BELLATRIX in their continuous integration, how they can, execute their tests in a simple manner where it's in a single machine, and how to do it distributed using our other tool, Mesa. So we'll have articles and videos about that, I hope, really soon.
Yes, so if you have any idea for what we should include in the roadmap, please address this somehow, and we will announce the roadmap in the beginning of the next year.
Yeah.
So thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao.
Bye.